Tone, good morning.
Hey, what's happening?
I'm doing well. It's a big day today. It's going to be even bigger. If you are in Bay Village or Avon Lake, think twice about going to work today. You get to see something incredible. More on that coming up at 6:43. Something very incredible. If you're getting ready for work, you might want to think about taking PTO.
Oh, we've been gearing up.
For some folks, I am absolutely dead serious. For some of the others,
we've been gearing up for this in the Lima household.
Actually, I think a lot of people are going to be excited. I think some people, you're going to roll your eyes, but some people are going to be very, very, very excited. All right, coming up at 8:20 this morning. Is Daryl joining us at 8:20 this morning? All right, I finally get to ask him the question then about Jim. Finally get to do it. Anyway, you heard Denzel right there. Does it change your mind at all? Because, okay, so last week, you weren't here on Monday. Big conversation about Miles, big elephant in the room. Then it happens. And then Tuesday, I was with you, and I got brought up briefly about Denzel Ward and his future. And there were immediately a lot of people going, oh, no, you can't get rid of it. You can't. And I figured once the best player was gone, it just made it easier to move on from some of the other players to go after some guys. I was actually surprised at the reaction that was there about trading Denzel.
The floodgates are supposed to be open now,
and there were plenty of people saying, absolutely not. You cannot trade this guy. You cannot do that. And then I thought,
people said that?
I swear. Why would I make that up? Did I make it up?
After they traded Miles?
After they traded Miles. I got a lot of people.
Interesting.
A couple of
commentary. Did they say why?
A couple of comments about, just because he's from here. He's a Cleveland guy. He likes it here. The usual fare. Not a lot of football reasons why, to be honest with you, but there was a lot of the, he's a guy who loves it. And I think, honestly, with moving on from Miles, it makes everybody kind of go over the last 9 years of Myles Garrett, but then I think it also makes you examine the time that we've had with Denzel Ward, and I think it puts Denzel Ward's time in a different light. And how he's been with the fans, how he's been in the area. And there were a lot of people having comments, and I actually agreed with them. I go, for all the hand-wringing and stuff, and we've done a lot over Myles Garrett over his time with the Cleveland Browns, there was really very little about Denzel Ward. There's some injury issues that we've had. There's been some weird conversations about those.
But the value is never remotely going to be the same.
As far as what?
The return.
No.
The return. So,
no.
In terms of reshaping a roster and trying to elevate and rebuild and, doing everything you can to make sure you're getting what you can, the pieces and parts to help, recreate this roster, it was never going to be, the corner was never, albeit a lockdown corner, was never going to be the formula for that.
No, it wasn't. And I really did, I think I read people wrong on that. Where at least the reaction was to me that they did not want to lose Denzel Ward after trading away Myles Garrett. Which Denzel Ward, and you heard a couple of those comments. I'll play them again for you coming up here in just a moment. But you heard some of those comments that he had made, and I think that there is a loyalty conversation to be had with fans. And there's always going to be a time for some fans where some player goes, whether it's in free agency, whether it's in trades, and it kind of breaks everything for them, and they go, okay, I no longer treat these players the way that I used to trade them when I was a kid. That type of thing. And I maybe people still go case by case when it comes to Denzel. I know they went that way with Nick Chubb. I think a lot of people in their heart of hearts knew that last year with Nick, that he wasn't the same type of running back that he had been the years before. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the injury, for crying out loud. But I think there were still a lot of people who were really upset with the Browns and really upset just because he had ended up going to the Houston Texans. And what he did with the Houston Texans wasn't – I'm not trying to talk trash about Nick Chubb whatsoever. It wasn't like overly remarkable or anything crazy.
He's clearly fallen off.
Yeah, but there were a lot of people there were some people who were very upset about the loyalty to it. Fans, they get upset about players. And I maybe it was that way with Denzel Ward, even though Denzel Ward hasn't had anywhere near the drop-off that a running back would have. But it still feels that way with some fans.
Minus the concussions, right? Denzel should be able to play at this rate, at this level. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Joe Hayden. Think about Joe Hayden when we thought he was starting to get a little washed up in Cleveland. He goes to Pittsburgh. Did he make a Pro Bowl with the Steelers?
He had a bit of a renaissance.
He ended up having a couple of years where he played back near that level. So it wouldn't surprise me if Denzel was able to maintain this level. The question with Denzel, and basically when the Miles thing happened, I came on the air next day, and people just thought it was a foregone conclusion on Denzel, and I'm like, well, by the deadline. I
thought it was any time with Denzel. That's what my thought was.
Well, I just didn't think anybody right now, teams aren't desperate the way they will be at the deadline. So, that's different from a Myles Garrett swing where the Eagles might have been involved and the contenders feel like they need that one piece that could make a difference come playoff time and everything. Teams don't even know if they're going to, most teams don't even know or already have their secondary. So it would involve guys going down with injuries or the current guys they have on that team, or the rookies not being able to step up, and the second-year players not being able to step up. That's why I think the market for Denzel might become more robust at the deadline. That was not the case with the Myles Garrett situation.
Well, with Myles, I think one of the issues that people brought up was if you traded him at the deadline, because I was like, well, maybe still deadline. I wanted to start the season with Myles and see where the season went before we had those conversations. But there were definitely people advising against that because of the injury situation. All right, well, Myles, yes, can get banged up. Now, he's played through some pretty significant injuries before. Denzel Ward, his criticism has always been he hits bigger than his body. His body is not big enough to take the hits that he dishes out on it. But it's a higher likelihood that Denzel would be hurt by the trade deadline than what Myles Garrett would have been.
But I'm not going to sit there and, when Joe Thomas was here that last year, I was like, this is asinine not to get a first-round pick for him. I can't believe, there's a team that would just gift-wrap you a first-round pick, and we're just going to keep Joe Thomas on one of the worst teams in football. Never made sense to me, but I don't have that attachment to play. Oddly enough, I have more of an attachment to Joe now than I did when we were playing.
True.
Just because he's become buddies with us. And certainly over the weekend got some responses to an event that Joe was at with a very famous
6:09 and 52 seconds. If you had before 6:10, straighter box. Congratulations, you're a winner.
But the Joe thing was very different to me. It never made sense not to just take a team is just going to give you a first rounder for a guy who's not going to help you win. Joe Thomas was never going to help the Browns win at the end. He would admit it.
Is Denzel going to help you?
Denzel, yeah. You know what? He could help you win, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. But then I expect the drop-off to really happen with him. So, but I'm not sitting here going, oh, man, if he gets another concussion and we don't get – because I'm not hearing first-round pick. I had said that on Tuesday. I'm like, oh, man, obviously they're going to trade Denzel. And now after just kind of listening to people talk around the league, I think Zach Jackson said – third or maybe a second. I'm like, oh, it's not an all-time missed opportunity.
If you're saying a third or maybe a second. I thought second.
Okay, it's not as big of a missed opportunity if you can't trade him. And plus, then I do weigh in, hey, you know what? He is one guy here that fans love. And you know me, I don't have that attachment nearly as much.
When it comes to that, we do usually, like I thought the conversation started at 3 first-rounders. So that's probably where it would finish for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I understand that we had some, but Tom Pelissero came on and kind of did the weird math around it, like the curve that made it like, oh, well, technically, when you think about it, you did get 3 first. Like, let's not go crazy here, because you got Jared Verse back, you got the first round pick back. I just thought, man, if you add more to the chest, but if we're adding it naturally, I think we overrate our own players, so I would naturally overrate Denzel Ward and the return you would get for him. And I know we looked around some of the other places. Yeah, I think if Sauce Gardner had a different name, I think you probably would have got less for him if you're the Jets last year. But that was a trade deadline move. So maybe the deadline is, we'll see where the season goes. If you start off better than what a lot of people think you're going to be, maybe we'll talk about holding on. If things go not very well, or a lot of people think they're going to go not very well, then yeah, let's open up that possibility.
I do have a larger question, and this is more from a thematic sense, overall sports, big picture stuff.
Yeah.
In our recent sports watching years, obviously LeBron left twice. That's totally set that aside, different category. But, seeing Baker, who was as big a fan favorite as it gets, seeing how that unfolded towards the end. Seeing Nick
more
Chubb
on him coming up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Nick Chubb, the injury, and then eventually what led to him leaving. And you go one by one, Myles Garrett, as good a player in any sport as we may ever see. There's a chance we may never see in all three sports somebody as good as Myles Garrett. Are fans doing what I always say that I do? Are fans getting to the point, especially in today's day and age, when even your favorite college players, it's year to year, on the type of attachment you might have with them?
No.
Are fans getting to the point where they are going to prevent themselves from having that visceral, emotional attachment
I think,
to a player?
It depends on what age you're talking about. I think if you're talking to teenagers and anybody younger, there's always going to be an attachment to a player. And whether or not you feel that way for the rest of your life, it depends on how much you love that player during that time. But there's always going to be guys that you feel a soft spot for from as a kid. But as an adult, I don't know. I think it's different. Like, there's guys that come and go, and you get used to talking to them. You develop some sort of a relationship with them. That part makes it tough. That part makes this part of it
I feel like
difficult.
Jose is the last one for me.
But as
like Jose Ramirez is that's the last one that I may have that attachment with. That if we found out the Guardians made a huge deal and traded Jose Ramirez, I'd be like, my jaw would have to be picked up.
Yeah, that would probably be.
But outside of that, I don't. I mean,
there's no probably about it. That'd be beyond the pale.
If the Cavs traded Evan Mobley, tomorrow wouldn't be like, oh man. I mean, some people felt that way with Garland, but there's just nobody. There's nobody. I don't know, and I'm older now, right? So
but I just think
I'm in a different.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to be anymore that attached to 20-year-old athletes. I mean, honest, let's be honest. You're not supposed to.
That gets a little weird, right?
There might be certain stories and certain storylines you follow, and then you really like them. But a lot of it's like, I mean, we did this. Okay, we'll talk about it. We did this with Baker. You remember that when people were naming their dogs after him and stuff. And Liz is like, I like that name because she was pregnant with Jonah. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm not naming him Baker. And she's not even like she likes the Browns, but she's not a big sports fan. She just thought the name was cool because she kept hearing it all the time. I go, no. And she goes, why? And I go, I'm 9 years older than him. I'm going to talk to this guy. And at the time, it was going to be for the rest of his career with the Cleveland Browns, which meant he would still be with the Cleveland Browns today in a different universe. And it was like, I'm not going to sit across the table from a guy. And when I named my kid, arguably I named my kid after him. Yes, I understand where the name Axel comes from. Different story, different all the way around it. But when it comes to him, I wasn't going to do that. And so that was my first foray into like, yeah, kind of like the stuff with the players isn't the same anymore. And I like Denzel. I think Denzel's a hell of a player. Denzel's a good person. But I think if you get to the trade deadline and the Browns are sucking up the room and there's a chance to send him to a defense for a second-round pick because maybe the price might go up considering there's the desperation that a team might have to try to punch their ticket into the Super Bowl, then yeah, I think I'd be willing to have that conversation with a competitive football team. Like, I don't know if I'd want to send – I'll tell you this. He's been such a good player for you. I don't know if I'd want to send him to some garbage dumpster team for a third-round pick right now. Like, I wouldn't want to send him to the Cardinals for a third-round pick. I wouldn't understand that. But when it comes to the Browns, when it comes to us, yeah, I know we're not expected to be that good this year, but if we get to the trade deadline, a good team's willing to offer a decent pick, yeah, I'd have that conversation. I think that – and I think I'd have that conversation with Denzel. I go, do you want to go to a team that contends or do you want to stay here? Because if it's a second rounder, then I might have to do what I have to do for the franchise, honestly. But a third round pick, I think that if that's the best we can get, I do think that there's a conversation that we have to have with each other on that. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm just not in a rush to do that now. I'm not like, we got to get a third round pick now for Denzel Ward. That to me would be defeating in many ways.
Now, there would be some people who say they just want the quarterback. And so there are people aiming to lose this year. I'm not one of them. I just don't know as of this moment, and it's still really fresh, but I'm starting to kind of see around the corner and to see what's coming. As of right now, I can't see myself. Like early season, yeah, there might be some fireworks if they lose games. There might be some early season Monday morning fireworks. I can't see myself getting that upset for very long, considering how big of a trade this is and what you tell the world when you make a trade like that last week. And if it were to be Denzel, you'd really be telling the world what you plan on doing. So I kind of dig the idea of keeping him around to see where it would go. And if it goes to a bad place, there's only going to be contenders that are there. Hopefully he's still healthy. Let's have a conversation with Denzel. He might deserve that right as a veteran.